Greetings. My old law partner would declaim, while pulling together evidence in our law cases, this quote: "The truth cannot be told so as to be understood and not believed." I think these words are even more applicable to faith than they are to law. When one understands the truth of one's faith, one inevitably believes in God. I've long believed that the reason the world has not come to peace and unification is that we preachers have not told the truth clearly enough to enable all to understand and believe. And we of the 21st century like to have everything wrapped up in neat scientific packages. And then we want that truth to be tested by a great variety of authorities and experts. But that's a new face on reality. It's not the way faith has been handed down over the ages. After all, the first peoples who understood and communicated the lessons of God did not come in neat white lab coats with age-dating equipment and volumes of fact-based history. Instead, they heard the stories and spread the stories to all who would hear. Undoubtedly, details changed to reflect local understanding and interests and translated into the cultures and times of the ages. New understandings would have been created over the generations as individuals pushed their favorite stories which had convinced them of its truth. Eventually, the stories of God and creation were transcribed into the written word, and then into volumes of which much that might have been included was edited out by those who questioned the value or the authenticity of the author or of the lessons told. But the message of the power of God persisted. In the Western world in the 21st century, faith is challenged by cynicism and indifference, and often seen as divisive by those who seek to unite us around political norms. Strangely, that is almost a return to the times when tribes or countries adhered to the faith of the ruling dynasty. The people accepted their leaders' wisdom and right to determine the truth on political and religious matters. Today, it's in rejecting organized religion and accepting the virtues championed by Twitter or Facebook that we mimic that mode of the past. Today, we value individuality to a far greater degree and expect that each person will come to their own conclusions on so many different matters, and then dismissed if they disagree with the woke folk perspective. And belief in God is just one such item. Christmas is celebrated both by the birth of Jesus and the arrival of Santa Claus, the latter enjoyed by those who adhere to a variety of religions. The Happy Holidays greeting has replaced Merry Christmas to celebrate the many faiths of Canadians. In December, the Happy Holidays include the 8 days of the Jewish celebration of Hanukkah, the Zoroastrian day of Yalda, and the Scandinavian Yule, both celebrating the winter solstice. The Muslim holiday of Ashura celebrates Muhammad fasting in solidarity with Jews observing Yom Kippur. Buddhists recall the vow of Siddhartha Gautama to sit under a tree until he was enlightened, and was then given the title of Buddha, the awakened one. And finally, Kwanzaa, the African American celebration of community and family, with its spiritual overtones in its emphasis on Imani, Swahili, for faith, which brings December to an end. Similarly, when Easter comes, it brings with it the crucifixion and the resurrection, or bunnies, egg hunts, and parades, something for everyone. If nothing else, Canada in the 21st century has largely learned to accommodate and adapt to the multicultural and multi-faith proximity that modern communications, travel, and immigration have produced. We've largely learned to appreciate believers' festivities and memorials that commemorate valor, sacrifice, and life in faith, which is easier for many than understanding those who have no faith or beliefs. The most contentious issue between believers and secularists is whether there is a God the Creator, or whether science can explain how all came into being. Well, as a great fan of the Big Bang Theory TV series, I regularly listen to their theme song. Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state. Then nearly 40 billion years ago, expansion started. Wait! The Earth began to cool. The autotrophs began to drool. Neanderthals developed tools. We built a wall. We built the pyramids. Math, science, history, unraveling the mystery that all started with the Big Bang. Bang, music and mythology, Einstein and astrology. It all started with the Big Bang. It all started with the Big Bang. Which is a rather simple but concise version of those who claim science answers all. And they hold up the story from Genesis as the reason that they disbelieve. 6 days versus 16 billion years is quite a stretch, but only for those who take the Bible timeline as literally accurate. 6 24-hour days of work and one of rest, and consider it the original history book, which it is neither what it is, never was, nor was it intended to be. The Bible teaches lessons in how to live or not live. It tells stories and pictures and notions that our brain can accommodate, process, and apply to our lives. For instance, what is 14 billion years? Or $14 billion? Those types of numbers are really beyond my comprehension. My brain tends to think in terms of days, months, years, lifetimes, or even centuries. But billions of years? I have no concept of what that means. Recently, most of us have been getting alarmed over the increases we see at the gas pump, in the meat department, or the fruit market. That has great meaning because inflation and shortages impacts what we can afford to buy. It means that we'll eat more hamburger and few steaks, that we will have a shorter vacation and go less frequently to a restaurant or bar. Those numbers have meaning. But when the finance minister waves her charts at us and talks of billions of dollars going into this project or that, my eyes just glaze over. All I know is that it is a debt too enormous for my generation to repay, and who knows which one will. We learn lessons of inflation and supply chains in the dollars and cents when they come out of our pockets, and that is the type of lessons that the Bible teaches. It's not that the Bible misleads us, but it does simplify the truth for us so that we can understand it. The 7 days of Genesis, including the day of rest after all the creating, tells me that one works hard, but rests and worships as well. It does not tell me that the universe was a 144-hour project. While I am content that God could have done that, should he have so chosen, I just happen to believe that dinosaurs came long before mankind, and that there were billions of years before any being set forth on their journey on our planet. I glory in the vast expanse of space and the complexity of everything. For me, there is no conflict between science and the stories of the Old Testament. After all, this is how creation is told. First the formless void of nothing, then the earth and sky and sea, light and darkness, then follows the land and plant life, and the sun and the moon for light and darkness, and with the sea and the land came living creation. From the waters came creatures to inhabit the sea and the lands, and birds to soar in the skies. And then God made humanity. And ever after, we've tried to understand why we were worthy of this incredible creation. And when you look at those steps, they tie in quite nicely with the order of things that the scientific community offers up as the proper 21st century order of things. And how in the world, without divine guidance, could people who thought only in spans of hundreds of years have come up with the actual order of creation as scientific research demands? The only thing the scientific community doesn't offer up is where all these elements that created the Big Bang and all else came from. What was there before there was anything? What was the source of everything? The creator? The great scientist? I'm perfectly happy to be entertained by the theme of my favorite series. I'm more than willing to accept big bangs and black holes, even white holes, and a firmament that stretches beyond what eyes or telescopes can see or our scientists can yet explore, beyond the limitless time and space of forever. But beyond acknowledging the Creator God, I await an explanation of what was before there was anything and where it all came from. because the only explanation I have ever found is God. Christians, Muslims, and Jews, sharing the same creation writings, share their belief in God's power. But virtually all faiths have an understanding of how and why the world and humanity were created, and that includes a supreme being. As an example of creation in another faith that is not of the Abrahamic tradition is the Zoroastrian. Their great prophet, Zarathustra, lived around 1200 BC. He taught that there is one eternal God and that he had 7 powerful creations: sky, water, earth, plants, animals, humans, and fire, and that this life is a struggle between good and evil. This is the common theme: creation and the human plight of choosing the path of righteousness over sin as the challenge that this world provides. My challenge is not to choose between science and the Bible. My challenge is to explain science without a creator. Debate, contemplation, study, and discussion are not to be feared. They're to be savored and shared. Our God and our faith have survived the challenges of the ages, the wars and the famines, the tyrants who sought to eradicate religion, and those who sought to impose it. I'd be very interested in hearing how you have come to believe. Scientists or saints, secular or religious, or how you have come to blend them together in harmony and faith. Leave me your comments on the YouTube page to share with others, or write me anytime about anything at dametemplar@gmail.com. So may it be. Amen. In the meantime, we are back at church, and does that ever feel lovely? I hope you're enjoying getting out and about and meeting up with those whose company you have been denied for so long. Best of all, the restaurants are open, and the gym is making me feel guilty for all the months I've evaded the exercising I know I should be doing. This freedom feels like an early spring, despite snowdrifts and freezing weather yet to come. Enjoy.